uh, undocumented immigrants commit only half the crime on average of natural born citizens. So under your logic, we should be kicking out the natural born citizens because they're such rampant criminals.
I mean, there's something that you missed there. Maybe this is not a very sophisticated thought, but have you ever wondered that the fact that they're here illegally and we don't know who they are makes it a little hard to like document?
No, when they commit a crime, we document it perfectly well.
I think your viewers could be very intuitive here. What do you think?
No, JP, when they commit a crime, they get booked, so it's perfectly documented.
If they get catched.
And yeah, also, I know, but they also don't catch natural born citizens either when they commit crimes.
By definition, they all cross the border illegally. Like their first step into the United States literally was criminal because they're illegal immigrants.
Yeah, no. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. In this video, we have JP Villasmil absolutely demolishing Cenk Uygur with facts and logic. This was a great watch. Let's get it.
JP Villasmil is a reporter at The Spectator, and he's a constitutional studies fellow at the American Conservative. Fun. Okay, JP, thanks for coming on. Tell me why you want to vote for Donald Trump.
Mr. Uygur, thank you for having me.
No problem.
I'm going to be honest. I enjoy seeing all the other debates, but I think we're missing some aura here, and we need to push back a little more. You keep referencing that Trump's a wannabe dictator. He wants to terminate the Constitution. You even referenced the fact that Trump said there's good people on both sides, and even Anna Kasparian agrees with me here. If you're going to attack Trump, you got to attack him with real facts. And the real facts, in my opinion, is that if you're a working class American, you should favor Trump. Reality is that most billionaires that you consistently trash support Kamala Harris. Reality is that if you're a billionaire and you're not America first, tariffs hurt you much more than domestic deregulation. Reality is that most working class Americans remember the Trump years. Reality is that when you look at poll after poll, Trump is winning with Hispanic Americans. There's a plus 21% increase from 2016 to 2024. Actually, he's leading with Arab Americans. He's leading with Teamsters. 65% of Teamsters members support Trump. So the Young Turks, all of you guys love the working class, and I do too. So what's going on? Like the working class is not catching up with the Young Turks. They're catching up with Trump.
Okay, so a bunch of things there. First of all, Anna does not agree with anything you just said there, other than she says on the both sides comment, he did later say that he's against white supremacists. So I say that's plausible deniability. I don't think there was any good people on that pro-Nazi, pro-Confederate side, but we can agree to disagree on that. Okay, now in terms of supporting billionaires, Donald Trump is pretty famously supporting Elon Musk, richest man in the world, also very much supporting, and he says it in all these cases, Sheldon and Miriam Adelson. They gave him a combined about $300 million in the 3 races that he did. He says, well, I like their money, so I'm gonna do whatever they want. So he moved our embassy in Israel because Sheldon Adelson asked him to. He made corruption charges against him go away with a minimal fine when he had apparently bribed people in China. And the list goes on and on of all the corrupt things that he wants to do in favor of billionaires. So yeah, I don't see how he's any better there. Yeah, the Teamsters members, hold on. And the last thing on that, just out of the things that you mentioned, the Teamsters members are slightly on Trump's side. I see that. I love the Teamsters, and I praise Sean O'Brien's speech a lot at the RNC. I thought it was the best speech out of both conventions. But on the other hand, if you're gonna say that, all the rest of the unions support Kamala Harris. So by your logic, if we're going for unions and the common guy, then you should vote for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, but the interesting thing here is the momentum. We see a shift. We see Kamala Harris going out with Liz Cheney. We see Kamala Harris trying to appeal to the Bush Republican. And we see Trump picking J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, if you guys remember, he was hated by the elites. J.D. Vance talked about family policy, about tariffs. He actually sometimes argued against tax cuts. J.D. Vance is the most populist figure that we've had in a presidential ticket in a while, with Donald Trump included. The momentum is there. The working class is moving in that direction. And actually, I believe that if you want to influence our politics into a working class direction, The Republican Party is the vehicle. My argument here, and I understand, I think you have a point. When you look at different elites within the country, of course, there's two major parties. Some elites are going to side with one party, some with another. But have you ever noticed that the elites that rely on domestic labor are the ones that support the Republican Party? It's people that make a lot of money with oil. It's, folks that want to expand in the United States of America. Folks that don't mind the tariffs that much. The people that are arguing against Donald Trump, the people that are throwing billions against Donald Trump, are the people that are concerned with the tariffs because they're not concerned about the American people. They're not concerned about industrial policy. They don't want meaningful jobs. They don't care about people committing suicide more than ever before in our entire history, more than the Great Depression, where we were 3 times poorer back then. Why are people killing themselves so much now? Reality is that America is destroying itself, and these elites backing Democrats are the ones that are yielding this self-destruction, this self-immolation, I must say.
So JP,
see what they're talking about here. I'm not a big fan of massive corporations having all this power. At the same time, this plan to tax unrealized capital gains to only millionaires and big companies, that's going to trickle down to all of us if Kamala Harris gets in. All tax at some point was supposed to be only for the rich, and now look, everybody's taxed. The reason I'm not in favor of it because you're taking money out of an efficient system, which is a business that they could take that money, reinvest it, maybe do some R&D, and giving it to the government, which is the most inefficient, corrupt system that we have right now. And taxing unrealized capital gains is just ridiculous. You're going to tax me on profits I've not made yet. And if it's a capital gain from a house or a stock, they don't always go up. So you can be taxed on a asset that you lost money on. What's next? You're going to tax me on the car I didn't buy? Most Americans that pay attention can see that 4 years ago, they had more money in their pocket, and the stats will show it. Everything right now is 10 to 50% more than it was when Trump was in office. The economy is the single biggest point of any election. If the economy of Obama was so great, Hillary would have gone in and not Trump. And that's just a fact. People care about their pocketbook. Let's get back to it.
Look, if I thought J.D. Vance and Trump were actual populists, I'd back them. Bernie Sanders was an actual populist. I loved it, backed him. I don't want the establishment of either party. But what kind of a populist says, let's give a $2 trillion tax cut to the corporations? What kind of populist says, hey, oil companies, give me $1 billion in campaign finance and I'll deregulate you, I'll give you more tax cuts. This is out and out corruption, and it has nothing to do with, it's the exact opposite of populism to give giant corporate tax cuts. How can you not see that?
You're fixating on that individual policy. And again,
yeah, it's a $2 trillion policy
within the Republican Party that agree with you here. But what I want to focus on here, which is important, is the reality is that you cannot just focus on that. You got to focus on the entire economy. If there's domestic deregulation and you incentivize domestic production, you increase the supply, therefore lowering inflation, while you focus on battling the externalization of markets in an increasingly globalized world where the world is increasingly transactional and the US is not. Every country applies tariffs, and we're one of the only countries in the world that goes, you know what? Actually, no tariffs is better. Free markets, free markets, free markets. My question is, if it's that easy, if free markets are the best, why aren't all the countries in the world doing it? Why is the US the only one that's like free markets, free markets, free markets? And reality is because the mega billionaires, actually like the Koch brothers, Bernie Sanders used to agree with me here, and I'm sure you did too. They like not having tariffs. They don't care that much about some corporate tax rates. They don't care that much about paying a little more in taxes. They make billions from externalizing labor, from making the Chinese build cheap goods. And meanwhile, Americans are jobless, they're suffering, and again, they're committing suicide in massive rates. And the people that are talking about this, the people that are actually innovating, when you read the American Conservative, the American Mind, and these publications, when you read what J.D. Vance once used to write and now talks about, they actually have a policy, they actually have a vision that looks at the complete picture. And to look at the complete picture, you must deal with the world first, not just, tax cuts. Tax cuts are not increasing tax is not the most populist policy. I would agree. I would actually argue tariffs are
Yeah.
very populist.
Yeah, 76% of Americans believe that corporations have too much monopoly power and are using it to abuse the average American. They're 100% right. And Donald Trump says, yeah, let's deregulate them and give them more tax cuts to empower them to continue corporate rule and abuse us. We're in a fascinating, bizarre world where now the right wing is against free markets. So that's fascinating and interesting.
Supporting Trump, then most billionaires support Kamala Harris. You talk about Elon Musk. Elon Musk is the exception.
Okay, so JP, so as I explained earlier, we're #1 in energy production. So the idea that Biden and Obama and Harris didn't drill enough is absurd. You've got to admit that that's absurd. Okay, so that's absurd. Second of all, that goes into a giant global market. So let me ask you guys specific questions about that. So we give about $30 billion in subsidies every year to the oil companies. What the hell are we doing that for? They're the most profitable companies in the world. Why does ExxonMobil need my money? And Donald Trump says, no, give it to them. Well, what kind of populist is this? And why? He says, because they give me a lot of money. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's open corruption. He's just putting a for sale sign up. That's not a populist, that's a fake populist. And look, I don't understand why you guys can't see the con, right? So the guy, he runs a fake university, he runs a fake charity, he has to pay $25 million fine for his fake university and $2 million fine for his fake charity. He uses the money to buy a 6-foot portrait of himself and pay his legal bills. And you don't think that maybe he's conning you and that he's not actually a populist and he's just looking out for Elon Musk and Jeff Yaz and the Adelsons and the oil companies that are giving him money? I mean, how could you not see it? He even says it.
Guys, if I can just ask you to smash that thumbs up button for your boy, really goes a long way into helping me out. And at the same time, if this is not your first time here and you're not yet subscribed, hopefully this will be the video in which I can earn your subscription. Let's get back to it.
Cenk, you're a really smart guy. You went to UPenn like the former president. And I think you understand that reality is that you can talk about subsidies and you know, I see people on the left do this all the time. They go like, they're subsidizing Tesla, they're subsidizing the oil companies.
Yeah.
And again, when you look at the global picture, reality is that our biggest geopolitical competitor has tremendous amounts of an ability to afford concessionary spending. They have a huge centralized government and they subsidize their companies like crazy. And they don't only do this within their own markets, but they do this externally. They do this in Mexico, they do this in Latin America, they do this everywhere else. So if the US government is not subsidizing our own companies, if the US government is now using import substitution in its industrialization to some degree, then that's not beneficial for our national security. There's indeed some areas of our economy that the United States government should incentivize. And I think the oil sector is one of those. R&D, technology, innovation, more broadly speaking, the US government has a role. So I always think it's funny because it's like, oh my God, the US government is giving so much money to Tesla. If we don't give that much money to Tesla, if we don't incentivize our company, do you think we're going to win against China? And
so
then what does
JP,
what
let's
does
break
that mean
that down.
for the US?
Let's break that down. So now you're saying we should subsidize our companies just like communist China does.
Yeah,
interesting.
That's exactly what I'm saying. To some degree, again.
All right, we're just in amazing times. I'm just noting it for the record. Okay, but when you go to subsidize things, subsidizing some nascent industries makes sense. So for example, the CHIPS Act, I don't love it. It was a $60 billion giveaway to semiconductor business, but I get it. I get that they needed to be protected for national security reasons. With electric vehicles and Tesla, you could actually make a decent case. It's still nascent enough to do that, although he's the richest man in the world, so he should subsidize his own businesses. But with oil companies that are ancient and super profitable, there's no reason other than a robbery. Let's go to the drug companies. We subsidize their research, and then normally if you're doing an investment in capitalism, if you subsidize something, well, you get an equity in it and you get money back from it. Except we subsidize the drug companies and then they rob us blind. And then they use their power with politicians to make sure we can't negotiate any drug prices. So, okay, I criticize Biden and Harris for not negotiating drug prices on the tens of thousands of drugs. But at least they did do 10 drugs, including some super important drugs like insulin. So when I turn to the Republicans, they go, no, We shouldn't negotiate any drug prices. We should just have the drug companies set the prices no matter how high they are, and then we should pay them. I mean, if we did a story recently, dozens of Republican senators fighting like hell to make sure we can't negotiate drug prices. So what the hell kind of populace is that? Total nonsense. I mean, I can't believe that you can't see that they're tricking you and they're just walking you right over to corporate power. And Trump had 4 years. Why didn't he negotiate drug prices at all, Mr. Great Negotiator?
I mean, yeah, he's a fantastic negotiator, and I think he did a lot. But again,
on drug prices, he did nothing. By the way, he said he was going to, just like Obama. Obama said, "Oh my God, I'm going to negotiate drug prices." Trump said the same thing. Then Trump comes in.
I mean,
nothing. He never meant it.
He at least pushed the conversation in the right direction with some price transparency, allowing for increased competition in a sector where there wasn't enough competition. And that's a start. But again, when you trash those Republicans, I actually agree with you in a lot of ways. I don't like the establishment Republicans, and I see a change. I see young Republicans like myself pushing the conversation in the direction. I see J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is a true believer. If you are a populist, if you care about the working class, look at J.D. Vance. Look at him, he's the real deal. But before we move on, I wanted to talk about immigration. What's going on? Immigration is the biggest issue, and we cannot talk about Trump without immigration. And reality is that if you care about the working class, you should care about immigration.
Yeah.
Right?
So one thing at a time, real quick on J.D. Vance. You're right, we're running out of time, so I'll just say this and then we'll move to immigration. He was good on Lena Khan. He's been terrible on everything else. Loves corporate power, loves corporate giveaways, loves corporate tax cuts, loves corporate deregulation, financed entirely by Peter Thiel, who's a massive pro-corporate power guy. So it's all fake. Again, I'm so frustrated you guys can't see it. Now, in terms of immigration, it did spike in the Biden years, that's definitely true. And it was both because of two different factors. One is some lax enforcement. So I don't fight that. I think that was an issue, but also because of massive issues in Venezuela, Peru, and other countries that did not send a lot of immigrants before, but sent millions because of the turmoil in those countries. And so that's also true. Can you acknowledge that?
No, I agree. It's true. I don't agree with the particularities of some of the South American countries. Reality is that part of the reason why the flow of Venezuelan migrants has increased, and I know a lot about this topic. I have family in Venezuela, and I read extensively on the issue. It's not because the situation there got worse. The poverty rate has remained the same in the last 10 years. It's about supply. Reality is that there are incentives to come to America illegally. There are incentives to just cross the border, and those incentives weren't there. That infrastructure. I was talking to the former top Pentagon official for Trump in the Western Hemisphere, and he told me a phrase that I thought was really funny. He told me, he said it in Spanish. He said, "The United States has become the coyotes of choice," and I think that's true. The U.S. government is the most responsible for illegal immigrants coming here. We have all the incentives. We open our arms. Then they come here. Many of them commit crime. Many of them compete with our native population. Many of them drive wages down. Many of them make the housing, not very good. And then we turn around and we go like, actually, Democrats do this. Actually, we care about the border. Secure the border. Come on now. Come on, Cenk. Like, you guys don't.
So JP, couple of things there. Number one, I hate the gangs that are coming over, and I think we should be tougher on the criminal gangs. At least we've started to get a little bit tougher now, and I like that. On the other hand, undocumented immigrants commit only half the crime on average of natural-born citizens. So under your logic, we should be kicking out the natural-born citizens because they're such rampant criminals.
I mean, there's something that you missed there. Maybe this is not a very sophisticated thought, but have you ever wondered that the fact that they're here illegally and we don't know who they are makes it a little hard to like document?
No, when they commit a crime, we document it perfectly well. I think
your viewers could be very intuitive here. What do you think?
No, JP, when they commit a crime, they get booked, so it's perfectly documented.
If they get catched. And
Yeah,
also
I know, but
crossing
they
the
also
border
don't
illegally
catch
is a
natural born
crime.
citizens
So
either when they commit
by
crimes.
definition, they all cross the border illegally. Like their first step into the United States literally was criminal because they're illegal immigrants.
Yeah, no,
so.
that's fair, and you can say, hey, I don't like that they came in undocumented, no problem, right? But if we're talking about crime that we're really worried about, again, this is the demagoguing that I think is not at all helpful. So when Donald Trump says, oh, they're eating cats and dogs, that's terrible because it's not true, and you're getting people to hate Haitians for no reason. Talking about the poisoning the blood of our country, that's terrible. That's fascist talk. Don't do that. It's okay to say, hey, we should have boundaries. We should have certain rules to prevent undocumented immigrants from crossing. And we can have a debate about what those rules should be. But when you start spreading hatred about immigrants and then talking about how they're criminals, but wait a minute, like I said, the criminals that we catch are perfectly documented, and natural born citizens commit twice as much crime on average as undocumented immigrants. So the idea of kicking the natural born citizens out based on crime is of course absurd. So don't, like, using crime there is a false narrative. And you could tell because it's just not true that they commit more crime. And so when they cherry pick one or two crimes that are terrible, and then they go, oh my God, look at all these criminals. Can you not see how that's demagoguery? And we're not having a reasonable conversation on how much immigration we should have and what our rules should be. We're demonizing immigrants.
That's blatant reductionism. Like reality is Americans know this, and that's why the majority of Americans agree with me, and likely why Trump is going to win. Of course, illegal immigration causes a lot of crime. Of course, it brings a lot of drugs into this country. Of course, illegal immigration is a big problem. This like cherry-picked fact from like probably a liberal think tank that like actually the illegal immigrants don't commit less crime than the native-born population. Again,
yeah, JP.
We all know that's not. We all know that's not true. Maybe I'm an anti-intellectual here, but I listen to that fact and I'm like, yeah, I don't buy it, and also I don't care. Even if that were true, I wouldn't care because it's not just about crime; it's about everything else. And again, I'm counting some other things that maybe they're not counting as crimes, like crossing the border illegally into our country, and like all the drugs that come in, many of them of people that we never catch.
Yeah. So listen, JP,
I don't know who the criminal is. It's true with violent crime. You're right. Like with violent crime, if you kill a person and we catch you, then we can do some econometrics and we can add the numbers. But it's hard to do numbers with illegal immigrants. That's why it's a problem.
Not really. I got to go to Mike Lindell next. But listen, brother, don't take the anti-intellectual stance. I got into a huge fight with leftists over criminal gangs from Venezuela. So I don't want any criminals in here. I want to kick them out. I don't like criminal gangs taking over apartment complexes or apartment units. I don't want it, right? And the American people don't want it. But we also want to treat immigrants with decency. That's what the overwhelming majority of Americans say. We have to have reasonable rules, but be decent. So you've got to acknowledge facts. They're not criminals and rapists more so than other people. They're not poisoning the blood of this country. Immigrants are what made this country. You just have to have reasonable rules around it.
You're doing it again with the rapist line. Like, he's not talking about like the average Mexican. Again, like,
okay, well,
my name is Juan Pablo. Like, my name is Juan Pablo. Like, if he was calling me a rapist, I'd be like, Donald Trump, I hate you.
Okay,
but like,
all right,
he wasn't. Not true.
Okay, well, he definitely said criminals and rapists. That's like one of those most famous lines of all time. But JP, I appreciate you. Thank you for joining us, reporter at The Spectator. Thanks for doing it.
Cenk Uygur talking about illegal immigrants committing less crime than Native Americans is such a stupid point. Like JP said, their first act into coming into the country is an illegal one. But besides that, you can't justify it. The fact that they're illegally here, we don't know who these people are. A lot of them are the cause of the fentanyl that's killing over 120,000 Americans every year. You're enriching the drug cartel by letting these people in because they have to pay the drug cartel on the Mexican side of the border in order to be let in. You think the drug cartel's taking this money and giving it to the Red Cross or some Children's Cancer Society? I don't think so. And when he says that American citizens commit a lot of crimes, I agree. There's too much crimes committed by native-born Americans, blacks, whites, Hispanics. I agree. Why then are we taking the trash and the criminals from other countries when we have to deal with our own, and we haven't dealt with that really properly at all yet? I get it from their point of view, right? They're coming to a country that has rule of law, that has better opportunity, which they can earn money. These people are not here seeking asylum. They're here for one main reason. They're here to earn money. This is why it's mostly military-aged men coming into the country and not women, and mostly not children. American citizens have spent over $200 billion a year housing, feeding, and giving Medicare to migrants. So I get it from the illegal immigrants' point of view. Totally understand it. Might even do it myself if I was in their shoes. At some point, you gotta look at it from the American taxpayer's point of view and the American citizens' point of view, the safety of the citizens. All that money that's going to fund these people could have easily paid for a wall to stop them from coming in. Estimated that between 2021 and 2024, 10 million illegals crossed the border. That's 3 years. That's over 300,000 people a month. You cannot assimilate that in any way possible. A lot of them come here. They take jobs away from low-skilled Americans. And anybody on the left who would like to tell you that that's not true, they do jobs that Americans don't want to do. A lot of these illegal immigrants are doing landscaping jobs, roofing, construction, farming. Sure, are they hard jobs that a lot of people wouldn't want to do? Yes, but no American's out there that needs a paycheck saying, no, I'm not doing these jobs. And what they're doing by taking those jobs is they're stopping low-skilled Americans from getting a job, because why would an employer pay minimum wage or more to a low-skilled American when they can pay an illegal immigrant pennies on the dollar? Everything comes down to a risk-reward calculation in most things in life, especially right now for the illegal migrants. The reward of coming into the country is much greater than the risk. You come into the country, if you make it here, you might get some housing, some Medicare, some money, some food stamps. They might even let you become a citizen even though you came in illegally. You can get work. The risk is very low. What we have to do is we have to switch the equation around and make sure that the risk of coming into the country, because this is why they want to come in. They want to come in to make money because it is the richest country in the world. It's a simple equation. Make the risk of coming into the country way more than the reward of trying. When Trump was in office, he had the Stay in Mexico Act, where you had to wait on the Mexican side of the border in order to wait for your asylum papers to be okayed or put through. That helped. A wall would help. Or we can just be more like Poland. Have armed guards at the border, and if you try to cross or climb the wall illegally, they put a couple of rounds in you. Now, I'm not saying we should be that drastic, but you look at Poland, and that method is working. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. Catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.